Hello there everybody, my name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, upon reading more articles, there seems to be an article suggesting that I would say a very interesting team should be going after one of our players, and it's one of the players that we've been looking to probably trade, and his name is Zach LaVine. Now, I find this quite interesting because it's a team that I think is going in the complete opposite direction of a Zach LaVine, but at the end of the day, the explanation could be an interesting one, and maybe there is a team out there that could be willing to pursue Zach LaVine, even if it doesn't necessarily fit their goals at this point in time. So, with that being said, before we get any further, if you like the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls trading Zach LaVine to this specific team, and ultimately, do you see it happening, or is this one of those pipe dreams that just been written in the article, but ultimately will never, ever, ever realistically happen? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, who is the team that this article is suggesting that we trade Zach LaVine to? Well, we recently did talk about the Miami Heat and how the Zach LaVine could potentially go there and how it could be an interesting move for the Miami Heat. I don't necessarily think this one makes any more sense than the Miami Heat, but nonetheless, today we're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors and what Toronto can do with a guy like Zach LaVine, how it benefits both teams, and ultimately whether or not I believe this is a realistic thing that could happen. So, Zach LaVine to Toronto. Well, first and foremost, out of all the teams that Zach LaVine has kind of mentioned that he would like to go to, I don't believe Toronto is on that list. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, but at the end of the day, beggars can't be choosers at this point. Maybe Zach LaVine is just willing to go anywhere just to kind of get the move that he's after. How does this benefit the Chicago Bulls? Well, I think the big thing as to why it will benefit the Chicago Bulls is just flexibility when it comes to the financial side of the game for the Bulls. Yes, you're probably going to have to try and match contracts as much as possible with the Toronto Raptors because they've got multiple players on multiple years of long deals and stuff of that nature. So I don't think it's going to be, the Bulls getting pretty much as much financial freedom as possible, but maybe you could take on a couple of those big expiring contracts if they have them. Maybe you do get a solid player in return. Maybe it is a couple of picks. I'm not necessarily sure what Toronto could truly offer, but that's a reason for the Bulls at least to kind of get rid of Zach LaVine, just to have that flexibility on the financial side that maybe we could use to acquire more free agents in the future. Because one thing's for certain, no matter what you get back, in my opinion at least, from the Toronto Raptors, it won't be 3, 4, 5 years worth of a contract like what Zach LaVine is currently on. And how does it benefit the Toronto Raptors? Well, here's the part that's quite interesting to me, because I kind of thought the Toronto Raptors were going in a completely different direction. With the additions that they have, guys like Scotty Barnes, guys like RJ Barrett, it's a very interesting position that they're going towards, but ultimately the biggest explanation here is they don't necessarily have the purest of scorers on their team. So getting a Zach LaVine coming into the team gives them that flexibility on the scoring end, and again can maybe boost and elevate their game to a whole new level that they just don't have at this point in time. Now, from that explanation, it makes perfect sense to go after Zach LaVine. I do agree. I don't think they have the purest scoring. I think if you looked at Toronto's offensive side of the game since they traded a whole bunch of guys and they went down this different direction, their offense hasn't been their strongest point. They've always had a really solid defense. They've got a very sizable team. They're a very, very good team defense type of, playing style. They have that in their repertoire, and I think adding Zach LaVine, look, that could potentially disrupt that, but ultimately, like I said, when you give energy on the defensive end, that's contagious. I think Zach LaVine might be able to help in that department. But yes, Zach LaVine could definitely help on the offensive end. He's a 3-level scorer at his best. He's an efficient three-point shooter. He's efficient around the rim. He can help the free throws when it comes to the Toronto Raptors, because they love to get their free throws as well. So it does make sense from that standpoint. But what I don't understand is, there is someone filling that position for the Toronto Raptors, and his name is RJ Barrett. Now, RJ Barrett may not be the most elite scorer you'll ever see as a shooting guard and everything in between, but he does bring some solid two-way capabilities, and I can't see him, being replaced or being thrown to the bench. You'd have to find a way to make those guys work together. You'd have to find a way to make all of that starting lineup work together with Zach LaVine. That could be an easier said than done approach. And as I mentioned, their direction, in my opinion, is going more towards towards that rebuilding type. Zach LaVine is entering the stage of his career where he's entering his prime years now, as it should be. What is he, 28, 29 years of age? I'm not necessarily sure he fits the Toronto Raptors timeline. So there's going to be a lot of different opinions, and it's going to be difficult to get this deal done with the Toronto Raptors. Out of the teams that we've talked about, Miami and Toronto, I think it makes much more sense for Miami to go after Zach LaVine than the Toronto Raptors would go after Zach LaVine. But we know Toronto do like to sometimes go for those small turnarounds instead of the big rebuild. Since, obviously when they traded DeMar DeRozan, they didn't go for a rebuild at all. They got Kawhi Leonard and they won the championship. Since then, they have made moves to try and keep up with that level. Even though they haven't really got success in that avenue, they've still been a rather competitive team since they got rid of Kawhi Leonard, or since Kawhi Leonard joined the Clippers. Now they're trying to do something different. Maybe the quick turnaround is what they're going for. Maybe they're not going for that complete and utter rebuild, or maybe they're not going for a specific, playing profile. Maybe they are just trying to go for anybody that can make a difference as of now. I honestly don't know. I guess that's up for the Toronto Raptors to decide. But my ultimate, question that needs to be answered here is, can you see a way that the Bulls and the Raptors work out a deal for Zach LaVine? I think the Bulls are going to be all for this, in my opinion. But there's two teams there to tango. I just can't see what it benefits truly for the Toronto Raptors. Yes, they do get pure scoring, but they also get a massive contract under their books. One that I'm not necessarily sure will take them over the luxury tax or not. Keep that in mind. But even if it doesn't, it's a very big contract, and also a contract that's going to be very difficult to move if things go sideways. You have to remember, when you get a max contract Zach LaVine into your team, it is going to be a risk versus a reward type of situation. The risk is high for trading Zach LaVine. It's a high risk acquisition, potentially with a high reward if you get the best version of Zach LaVine out there. But some teams might not be willing to take the risk. And when I look at Toronto, I can't see them taking the risk. I can see Miami taking the risk. I just can't see Toronto willing and able to take that risk and, have a benefit for them in the future. But we'll wait and see, of course. There are other teams out there like the Spurs that could potentially take that risk. There are teams that are technically worse than the Toronto Raptors that might be willing to take that risk. We just don't know. But as of now, I just can't see that happening. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.